Call tonight's council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilors Anderson,
Here.
Benega,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Costello,
Here.
Jamison,
Here.
Knutson, here, Litz,
Here.
Staggers.
We have a quorum present for tonight's meeting. Tonight will be led in the invocation by Pastor Dennis Thompson from Free Methodist Church here in Sioux Falls. After the invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'd ask everyone to please rise.
God's promise to Joshua and also to us. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Someone has said, pertaining to his country, I'll substitute word city. My city, right or wrong? When right, to keep it right. When wrong, to make it right. Let's pray. Lord, we acknowledge you as sovereign over our nations and over our city, over our personal lives. And thank you that you will lead anyone who will follow you. Thank you that you grant wisdom to anyone who asks. And we ask wisdom. We ask courage to do what is right. We ask your divine benediction on everything that transpires tonight. May you be in the thoughts and minds of everyone so we can have peace and go forward in this city under your will. We ask a special blessing on our police and law enforcement tonight. We ask you would grant this council divine providence as they deliberate tonight. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconds. Further motions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Anderson,
Yes.
Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
All members present voted. Consent agenda has been approved 8-0. Is there a motion to approve the regular agenda?
So moved, Litz.
Litz moves. Is there a second?
Second, Anderson.
Anderson seconds. Further motions? I see none, so all in favor of approving the regular agenda will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Anderson,
Yes.
Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
All members present voted. The regular agenda has been approved 8-0. This is the time we set aside for anyone wishing to address the council for a period of 5 minutes at public input time. We just ask that you give your name. You don't have to give your address. So if anyone wishes to come forward for public input, I ask them to do so at this time. Seeing no one coming forward, we will move into the regular agenda. Item number 19.
New 2009 retail liquor license for SRO Restaurants LLC Grill 26 to be operated at 1716 Southwestern Avenue, including Sunday sales, based on the 2008 U.S. Census Bureau estimate, full-service restaurant, CUP not required. Item 20, rescind 2009-10 retail malt beverage license issued to SRO Restaurants LLC Grill 26, 1716 Southwestern Avenue. Item 21, rescind 2009 retail wine license issued to SRO Restaurants LLC, Grill 26, 1716 Southwestern Avenue. Item 22, new 2009-10 retail malt beverage license for the Ballard Building Restaurant Company, Parker's, to be operated at 210 South Main Avenue with a conditional use permit 2009-03-18 being approved on 04/01/09, pending final inspections for fire, health, and building services. Item 23, new 2009 retail wine license for the Ballard Building Restaurant Company, Parker's, to be operated at 210 South Main Avenue with the conditional use permit 2009-03-18 being approved on 04-01-09 pending final inspections for fire, health, and building services.
All right, thank you, Denise. Lori Hogshead with the City Attorney's Office for items 19 to 23. Just a quick explanation on item 19. Based on our 2008 census, our estimated census, we're authorized to use 90% of that number to issue additional retail liquor licenses based on the state law formula. As a result, we are able to issue 4 additional licenses, and this is the first of 4 to come before you. Any other questions I can certainly answer.
Questions? Okay. Any other questions on Lori? We're talking about 19 through 23. Any questions?
Move for approval.
Costello moves. Is there a second?
Second, Vanninga.
Bennigan seconds. Motion been approved to approve items 19 through 23, and it's been seconded. Further comments on that motion? I see none, so all in favor of that motion, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
All members present voted. Items 19 through 23 have been approved 8-0. Item 24.
Deferred action from July 6, 2009 meeting, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2009-05-03 to Chapter 15.45.070, Planned Development Districts at North Granite Lane and West 60th Street North, amending the Prairie Hills North Planned Development District sub-area regulations. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Mike Cooper, representing Planning and Building Services. This item is located on the northeast corner of 60th Street North and Granite Lane. The site consists of approximately 3.5 acres of land. It is directly east of the Flying J truck stop. The owner of the property is Ronald Parker with CFJ Properties. The request for the amendment is to add as a permitted use truck wash and service station. Going through a brief history of this area, back in 1994, when the property was still outside the corporate limits of Sioux Falls, in working with the Flying J truck stop proposal, there was a planned development zoning district put together that had limited commercial uses, as well as office, and provided obviously for the truck stop, hotel or motel, campground, a number of uses that were allowed based on input from the surrounding property owners. I can recall a number of meetings that we had on this particular plan development. So at the time that the zoning was put in place, a truck wash and truck service was not included as an allowed use within this area. The property was annexed in 1998 by petition, and subsequent to that, in 2007, another planned development district was approved, or modification, which is referred to as the Flagstone Planned Development District. And that's located directly to the east and north of this proposed amendment. Again, through neighborhood meetings and discussions, when that zoning plan was put into place, it allows limited commercial land uses, and then as you get closer to the north towards the Skyline Heights residential development, the uses change over to residential and office. So there was a transition buffer put into place between the north and the south sides. A truck wash and service station within our zoning ordinance is allowed along heavier commercial and industrial zoning districts. The example that I can think of would be the pilot truck stop on North Cliff Avenue. There's a truck wash on the north side of that. That's a C2 commercial, highway commercial. What we have in place within these two planned development districts is a C4 planned commercial, which is more restrictive in terms of the allowable uses. When the applicant came forward to us to consider this amendment, one of the things that we always tell people is that there needs to be a compelling reason why this is an appropriate location for this use, and then obviously there needs to be communication and buy-in with the surrounding property owners, especially given the history of this area with the years of discussions and meetings that we've had with different property owners. So having said all that, when it went through the Planning Commission, there was not any public testimony, and it was recommended for approval to the City Council. By the time we discussed this at first reading, we did hear from concerned property owners to the north that there was questions about the way the property was posted and the fact that there wasn't a requirement for a neighborhood meeting. And so the intent by the council was to defer this to allow a chance for the applicant and other property owners to discuss this further and see if there could be any consensus or agreement. There have been discussions and meetings since then, and based on all the input that I have, there has not been any change in terms of the opposition from the Flagstone property owners as well as the Skyline Heights property owners. And the input that I have been given is that we should stick with the original zoning plan, which provided for limited commercial uses, and that the truck stop, when that was originally discussed, that we specifically put together a zoning plan that did not provide for a truck wash and truck service station. So we have a number of people here tonight to represent both sides, but I would just say that you're probably going to hear the same thing, that the opposition to it has not changed, and in fact, it's probably increased since first reading. The other comment that I will make is that, again, when we look at these proposed amendments, the underlying zoning on this property is C4 planned commercial. And I think some of the neighbors are concerned that by allowing the truck wash and truck station, service station, that it's going to allow for encroachment or growth of more heavy commercial or even other industrial type uses to expand into this area, which again is contrary to the zoning plan that was put in place back in 1994. So those are the comments that I have tonight. We did receive a site plan from the applicant, but again, really we're talking tonight about a land use amendment. We're not talking about approval of a specific site plan or development plan, but the applicant did submit one for information purposes. Those are the comments that I have. If there's any questions from the council for me.
Questions, Mike? Go ahead, Herb.
Yeah. Mike, my understanding is that when they redo 60th Street North, they're going to put a divider in there and change the entrance into Flying J. Is that right?
There have been discussions for quite some time with the Department of Transportation about reconstructing this whole interchange with I-90 or I-29, and based on the design standards, that a median would be desirable and that the main access would be at the intersection of Kiwanis and 60th Street. Those discussions are still discussions. There hasn't been any specific plan put into place at this particular time.
I guess I didn't realize it would be possibly at Kiwanis and 60th. So would a big semi that's going to go to Flying J, how would they get in there to Flying J?
Well, this graphic doesn't show it, but there's some, again, there's been discussions about modifications of this intersection that would still allow some access into the Flying J truck stop.
Okay.
But those, again, those plans have not been put into place as far as any timeline or design.
Other questions of Mike? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, great.
Mike, real quick, do you know, did the applicant share his site plan with the residents?
I think there's been some
Okay, they've
exchange
seen
of
that?
yeah. Based on
Mike?
my understanding.
Mike, I've got a question too. You said when the original plans were done here for Prairie Hills,
Yes,
that that zoning wasn't included in the plans?
the specific use of a truck wash and truck service was not included,
And the reason for that would be?
based again on neighborhood discussions back at that time.
Thank you.
Further questions? Gerald?
Mike, when we deferred this a few weeks ago, there was some conversations about, in our doing that, there were going to be additional neighborhood meetings or postings to make sure that the neighborhood was aware of what was going on. Do you know if those things happened?
I know the applicant is here tonight, and that person might be better able to explain that. But based on the communications that I've been receiving, I don't think there's anybody in the area that's not aware of what's being proposed.
Pat?
Mike, is there any documentation of that original agreement that goes back to whenever?
Well, what I've said is the documentation is what the final zoning plan that was approved.
Okay, but nothing specifically precluding, excluding any items like a wash?
Right. I mean,
It was
obviously, somebody can come along and request a change, which is what they've
Okay.
done, or what they're in the process of doing.
So the only thing we have is just what was done?
Right, what the final zoning plan that was approved by both the city and the county at the time.
Further questions? Not, we could ask the proponent to come forward. Others, the proponent, or opponents, whoever wants to come. The only thing I'd ask is if we have a lot of folks that want to, which is fine, want to speak, just if you could bring a new topic when you come forward, that'd be great. But feel free to address the council. Go ahead. Just all you have to give is your name.
My name's Ann Party. You don't want me to say anything else? That's it?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm the applicant, and I just want to say a few things here. I guess the neighbors really don't want the truck wash, and I would be a local owner. I live here in Sioux Falls, and if you could put the picture up, please, of the building. I'm putting up a much more expensive building for the looks of it, because I care and I want it to look good. I mean, this place is going to represent me, and I want it to look nice for the neighbors and for everyone around. And I know they're worried about the trash that blows over from the Flying J right now, and that would be something that I would also be concerned with. I would pick up the garbage. I don't want it there either. Again, this business will represent me. And in the picture, you can see I'm putting in more trees than what's required because, again, I care about what it looks like. I also think that the business, it's a great use and a great complement to the area around it. Right now, there's about 353 semi-trucks out by the Flying J daily. So it's not like I'm asking to bring these trucks in, they're already there. So to me, it complements the use. I'm not bringing in anything that's not already there. Those trucks are there. Holcomb Freightliners across the road, they have their own truck wash that they can use for their own things, but a regular truck driver just can't go in there and wash their truck. It's about a $3 million plus project, which would be good for the city of Sioux Falls. I also am going above and beyond on I will put in a rain reclaimer, so the rain will fall off the roof and around the building, and I will collect that to recycle that rainwater and use it to wash the trucks. Also want to put in a water reclaimer that will reclaim the water that's already been used to wash trucks, and it will clean it, and you can reuse that water one time. There won't be any trucks parked there overnight, and there will always be a person on staff. When we're open, there will be a person on staff. And I think there seems to be confusion between a truck wash and a truck washout. And I don't want it to be a truck washout. A truck washout is where like a bull hauler comes in and they wash out the trailer. That's not what we will be. That will not be allowed at the site. We want to wash the outside of the trucks and trailers. So it will not be a washout. And the question is, how can I prevent that? Well, it's going to be open. When it's open, it will be staffed. So if a truck hauler pulls in, then we will have to go out and check to make sure that's already been cleaned. And if it's not, then we'll ask them to go wash it out first. I just think it complements the area. And again, I'm going above and beyond on different issues because it does represent me. I mean, this is going to be my business, and I want it to look nice, and I want to be a friend of the neighbor. And I think eventually that could happen. But I have to be given a chance. And I'm not being given that. And just because Flying J is not a good neighbor, that doesn't mean everyone's going to be a bad neighbor. Thank you.
Questions, Van? Okay.
Ms. Party, thanks so much for being here. This issue is one that I've struggled with more than most issues recently on the City Council. It's been really a hard one for me. I'm still struggling a little bit. But a couple questions for you. One, regarding the landscaping on your proposed plan, those kind of look like maybe evergreen trees, and would those be evergreen trees? I'm trying to just determine how much of an additional berm there would, well, not berm, but I mean landscaping, how high would the trees be?
Some of them, the kind of starish looking ones, will be evergreen trees. Correct.
Okay, and tall evergreen trees? I mean, at first, I'm talking about, I realize they'll grow.
I would guess that they'd already be, I don't know, I guess I haven't had that conversation, but if that was the issue, yes, I could definitely make sure that they were the taller ones and have them brought in.
I've just been driving out there, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is a hard one for me. Second question is that since that particular neighborhood, Skyline Heights, is actually, been there for a long time and well established as far as an association and so forth, I have heard from so many of those folks, and it's what I kind of sense is that there hasn't been good communication with them and you, or you and them, or however you want to say it. I'm not pointing any fingers here.
No.
So could you just tell us what attempts have you made to visit with the Skyline Heights people?
In all honesty, I moved back to Sioux Falls from Baltimore, Maryland, not quite 2.5 years ago. So I obviously was not around when a lot of this Flying J stuff went on, and call it ignorance on my part. I went and did everything that I thought I was supposed to do, but I didn't know I was supposed to contact the neighbors. Once we were at the last city council meeting, and then that was brought up, we did meet with some of them. There weren't very many of them there. I think maybe 6 or 4, I'm not sure exactly, but we did meet with them. So some of it was just ignorance on my part. I didn't know, and I guess I wasn't told, so I apologize for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions?
I do want to just add one more thing. We're guessing once we get up, or estimating that it would generate about $132,000 of tax revenue a year. And that's a decent amount of money, and I would say that the City of Sioux Falls could use that. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Wait, just a second. Go ahead.
Ian, what would the hours of operation be?
Well, in the beginning, we think for sure till midnight. That's the plan. And probably 6 in the morning till midnight, 5 in the morning, somewhere in there.
7 days a week.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Party, another question is, I'm pretty new as far as ignorance here too, as far as truck washes, okay? But I've been working hard. Is that, so when I drove up to the truck wash the other day, the pilot truck wash, and again, there were, a few trucks in line as that's what they're supposed to be if they're going to get washed. But they weren't idling. I mean, they were all turned off, it appeared to me. So is that typical? I'm kind of a rookie on truck washes. I mean, do people usually turn off
That's kind of normal at the Blue Beacon. They only have one truck wash lane, and it's all by hand. So the trucks, it usually takes about 45 minutes or even longer to get your truck washed. At the truck wash we're talking about, we're going to have 2 wash bays, one that would be by hand and the other one would be automatic. But yeah, there could be trucks in line waiting to get in. but the automatic takes about 10 minutes to do a truck and trailer.
And I guess just a comment more than a question here is that I really do agree with you on the fact that I don't believe that a truck wash will bring in more trucks. I mean, I think trucks who are already there will be the trucks that will use the truck wash. I can't prove that to anyone, but I don't believe it'll bring in. I mean, I just can't imagine a truck will drive all the way over there just to get washed without stopping at Flying J. But
Further questions? Not, thank you very much. Others that wish to address the council on item number 24? All you have to do is give your name. You-
Can I borrow that? I didn't know to be sure it was loud without a microphone. I'm John Lavender, and I live at 5409 North Castle Drive. I want to thank most of the council members for responding to my email and my concerns concerning this particular project. And I also had noted, I want to thank the planning staff of Sioux Falls, which I have known over the years to be very helpful. Over the years, I was a market analyst, and they helped me a number of times trying to make decisions for future businesses in Sioux Falls. What I want to reiterate a little bit from my letter, the way I tend to look at this is we want, if there is a business out there, we want it to be successful. And my point of my letter is that there are lots and lots of capital improvement needs that I think are going to have to be associated with the development of this car wash. As an old city planner, way back 30 years ago, sorry, time goes by very fast, I hate to see a zoning change or a use change when so many other variables have not been decided yet. And I think it puts the council or the planning commission in somewhat of a difficult position because, for example, if there's ever a median strip out there, if they ever redo the intersection of 60th Street and Highway 29, or the Kiwanis, and I also heard about a potential 61st Street. These issues are important, but they should be most important to the people who want to have a successful business. And so my approach or my appeal to you is that what we want is additional business in Sioux Falls, but we want it to be successful. And I think there are a lot of issues at stake here. So I want to say thank you again. Appreciate your
Questions? None. Thank you very much. Others that wish to address the council, come forward. All you have to do is give your name. Come on.
Good evening. My name is Christine Foster. My husband Joe and I have lived at 2700 West Skyline Drive now for just over 3 years. We are expecting our first baby at the end of this month, and when we bought our house in May of 2006, we took serious consideration into the type of the neighborhood that we would be growing older in and we would be raising our family in. When we found Skyline Heights area, we knew it would be perfect to get ourselves started. We are a young couple and we bought our first home at the age of 22. It was ideal that our new home would be located just a hop, skip, and a jump from the city of Sioux Falls. We appreciate that there is such quick interstate access in all directions. It was encouraging to us that there were so many beautiful older homes with mature trees and very precise landscapes. We value the closeness of our neighbors in respect to the friendships that were easily acquired, and mostly we love the quietness and the safety of our neighborhood. When we were looking into the purchase of our home, we were told that an annexation from the city was a possibility, but that it would be of value to our property, bringing in residential and light commercial businesses, an example, the banks, boutiques, restaurants, salons, and the like. Absolutely no bars, and just as bad, truck washes. We accept and appreciate the Flying J and where its position is. It was there before we made our decision to move to this seemingly perfect neighborhood. But to add a truck wash and an entirely separate street to accompany the traffic of the trucks is, simply put, intrusive. The noise of the truckers' jake braking is already enough for one to lose sleep at night, and if there were to be an additional stop for truckers to make way even closer to our developed neighborhood, it would ruin the ambiance of Skyline Heights. If there is a vote to be taken on whether or not I approve of this proposed zoning change from light commercial to industrial, I am 100% opposed. You do not have my vote in this matter, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you very much. Others that wish to address council, just give your name.
My name is Dave Husby. I think I'm going to bring a little different perspective tonight. I wasn't at the last meeting because I didn't know that there was anything going on. I work across the street at Holcomb Freightliner. Never saw any signs, but I heard about it after the fact, so I'm here tonight. I bring a unique perspective because in 1994, I was retained as a consultant for the Flying J and for the people that were interested in bringing a truck plaza into the neighborhood. At that time, Flying J had been unsuccessful 3 different times in convincing Commissioners Jameson and Hanson and Mayor White, as well as the County Commission, in approving this. And so a concerted effort was going to be made to work with some of the people that are here and some that aren't here anymore from Skyline Heights to try to make this more palatable. So to that end, I provided consultation to the lead for Flying J at that time, a guy named Craig Call, who was the brother of the founder of Flying J, Jay Call, who is now deceased. Craig was very concerned about what the neighbors thought, and when we got together with some of them, we weren't very popular folks. But one of the things we were committed to do the 4th time around was to try to create an environment that would address some of the concerns that the neighbors had. End result is what you see here. There were a number of transitional zonings put into place, including berms, trees, apartments, twin homes, light office uses, and some retail uses. To date, none of those things have happened. But after a lot of discussion with the neighbors, and I understand the question, Mr. Costello, that you answered, there isn't anything in writing, as you would see, that would indicate what was approved and what wasn't approved, but I can tell you, based on the conversations that I had with the neighbors and Mr. Call had with the neighbors, we tried to put a plan together that would be the least possible objection that they might have. To that end, the list that you see in the permissible uses, nothing is in there that would provide for any additional truck type of uses other than the travel plaza. They were very specific about it. They were adamant about it, and so we tried to accommodate that in our discussions. At that time, I was a commercial real estate broker and a developer for Hague companies. I no longer do that. The guy who retained me initially is a guy named Wendell Holcomb. I'm now his vice president of sales across the street from this property. So just so nobody thinks that I have a double-edged sword here, I'd love to have a truck wash across the street, or at least someplace close if it was a reasonable use. I don't believe it is. Mr. Holcomb doesn't believe it is. I don't think the neighbors do, and I'm absolutely confident that your predecessors, who weren't in this office, but they were across the street over at 9th, and the county commission at that time, because they were involved, would never have approved this change.
Questions, Dave Kermit?
Yeah, I guess I am very surprised by your comments, because I'm sure back at the time when you finally had this Flying J truck plaza approved, I'm sure one of your focus would have been on property rights. That, hey, this is property. We should be allowed to use this property so long as we don't have any, spillover effect, violating city ordinances, dealing with noise and dealing with litter and dealing with lights and things like that. And now you're coming to us and saying, well, here, in this particular case, we don't want people to exercise their property rights.
I fully understand. I mean, this isn't an argument that's terribly dissimilar from the raging discussion that's going on about smoking in bars right now. I understand property rights, and I understand the interest that a business owner has in regulating what goes on inside of his business. I think this is different, Councilman. This is a situation where we have a planning process and a zoning process in place to allow all of you an opportunity to be able to discuss these. This was a use that was never approved previously, one that would require coming back in front of this body for discussion. The only way in 1994 that the neighbors of Skyline Heights and others were ever going to find anything about this being palatable, property rights or otherwise, was to try to come to some consensus with them. This was one of the things that we did. All I'm trying to give you tonight, Councilman, is the history and how this came about.
Sure. Well, I guess once again, I mean, if it's good for Flying J to have their property rights exercised, to me, there's inconsistency here by saying this truck wash, which is much, much, much smaller than the plaza, well, we can't allow that to happen in this case. I guess that's the concern that I have.
I respect your opinion. I just disagree with it.
Other questions of Dave? Others that wish to address the council on item number 24? We ask that you give your name.
Gary Murfield, 5505 North Castle Drive. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I was the lone wolf, along with Wendell Potratz and Jeff the last time I here. My opinion still hasn't changed. Don't want a truck wash. Was brought up about meetings. We had one meeting after the city council meeting. It was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was a very short, notified deal. To me, that doesn't constitute a meeting with the neighbors. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's hard to get away from jobs, unless you're like me, not working very much, to get away to discuss things. I still am opposed to it. I think there's other things that can go there. We had meetings with Jeff and Dr. Solberg years ago. We spent many, many hours on this. And we, like the husband said, on the Flying J deal, we came up with the things we liked, and we thought that was going to be the end of it. I know times change, but when this is the gateway to our great city, which you all are a part of, we want it to look good, and I don't think a truck wash complements that. So thank you.
Questions, Gary? Thanks, Gary. Others that wish to address the council on item number 24?
My name is Wendell Potratz, 405 South 3rd Avenue, representing SWAP, the owners of Flagstone. I'd like to reiterate what Gary had just said. I've been involved in this neighborhood for over 8 years. And when we had meetings, they were in the evening. We had some during the day. But the meeting that we had after the council meeting consisted of approximately an hour and a half, and nothing really was ever resolved or discussed. There's many, many, many questions still to be answered on this truck wash. And I think it is the purpose of the meetings that we had previously with Skyline Heights and with Dr. Solberg and in our particular development, it was pretty specific, is that we wanted an upbeat development, and that's one of the reasons that we have the C4 zoning. The C4 zoning is also probably a little bit higher scale of development than an industrial type use, which a truck wash is classified as. So as far as it goes for tax dollars, I think you're looking at more tax dollars in a C4 zoning than in an industrial type use, if I want to point that out. So that's all I have to say.
Questions? No, thank you. Others that wish to address the council on item number 24?
Good evening. My name is Dwayne Lund. I live in Skyline Heights. I have some pictures here I thought might be beneficial. May I just hand them to you? took these pictures from the parking lot of Flying J. And the Flying J is no worse truck stop than any of the rest of them, and I don't mean to say anything other than that. They are a large corporation, and they do a good job. At least they try. They have people that confronts this problem of trash and debris every day. And when the weather's good, they do a pretty good job. But when the weather gets bad and South Dakota gets its wind, these pictures will kind of show you what happens. Anything that's done that increases the traffic will increase that problem. It's a given. There's a lot of great, hard-working men and women that service the trucking industry, but unfortunately, there's a percentage that is not. And in that lies your problem. Amongst the debris you see in the pictures are urine bottles, drug needles, paper, trash. It follows. Flying J is not that big a truck stop right now in comparison to the large ones across the United States. Jersey City, Indianapolis, South Chicago, Denver, all the majors. You can go anywhere you want. When you increase the volume of trucks, you increase that problem. And that has a terrible, terrible cost. The prostitution, the druggers, they follow it. And you have to confront it. If you look at South Chicago today, murder is such common play, it doesn't even make the headlines in the paper because it's not news. It isn't anything new. It just happens every day. Major truck stops have that problem. Flying J is a good one. It will, when the problems start 10 years down the road, they'll put in a gate guard. I've been in the trucking business for over 25 years. And what happens when they put in the truck stop? A guard, it helps a little. It keeps the four-wheel traffic from coming onto the property. So then they stay off the property. What will you be confronted with next? An overflow parking lot, a bar. These things are going to follow because the number of trucks are there and the dollars and cents are there. And with that, you cannot help the problems. Flying J can't help who gets out of them trucks any more than you people can or we can. It's just there. And I hope that you'll take that into consideration. 10 years down the road, what is the cost? How many calls will the police have to confront problems on that property? And how many do you have now? Be careful when you increase the number of trucks that flow down these streets. It has an enormous cost. Thank you.
Questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, thank you for bringing those pictures about the debris. Has this debris actually got into Skyline Heights on a regular basis, or
If
what's
the
it
wind
like?
blows our way, we get it. If the wind blows our way, we get the smoke, the noise. It depends on the wind and the temperatures, whether that smoke goes up or down. It's not a large problem. With the smoke, the debris is a lot more, and our concerns would be far greater that the volume increases. If there was a fence around them, in some places they do that. They put a 12-foot high retainer fence on two sides of the parking lot to give the people of the truck stop an opportunity to pick up the trash before the wind blows it away.
Other questions? Not, thank you very much. Others that wish to address the council on item number 24?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Stockert, and I represent the group that owns the property to the north and to the east of the subject property. I was a part of the meetings that took place with the Skyline Association a couple of years ago, and these people are tough, but through the process of a couple of long meetings with the help of the planning department, we worked it out. We got to a resolution that made sense to everybody, and And by everybody, that means us, and presumably it means them because they all agreed that what we were trying to do was the right thing for the property. So I make that statement because I obviously neighborhood sentiment can become emotional, but my experience was these people are reasonable and fair and tried to accommodate everybody. When we got involved in this property, we knew it was encumbered by a truck use. Obviously, we knew Flying J was there. We did not anticipate that a truck wash would come into the neighborhood. And I'm not sure anybody in this room really wants to entertain the idea of having a truck wash with, as a next door neighbor or an eighth of a mile away, whatever the Skyline people are. Nobody wants that. It's reality. Nobody wants it. Nobody sees a truck wash in this location as an enhancement of the neighborhood. Is this really, when there is a lot of land? I was out there again today. I drove around both sides of the freeway. I looked all over the place. There is all sorts of land out there. There is plenty of places that are properly zoned for a truck wash. Is it really necessary that there be a special accommodation, a major amendment to accommodate a truck wash when there's all sorts of land available where they can be? I had a conversation with a member of the Board of Regents. Obviously, the University Center is out there. They have 200 plus acres. His comment to me was, we've got land for 50 to 75 acres. This could become something really special. So I say, within a quarter of a mile, half a mile, do we really want to enhance the truck uses and not tone them down? It's really something that needs to be seriously considered. And the last thing I'm going to say here is that I've been involved in these sorts of meetings and working with planning commissions, et cetera. I respect all of the decisions that you have to make. In the case of Sioux Falls, I don't know what the overriding criteria is on what does qualify or shouldn't qualify as a major amendment to the zone. I've stated that I don't think it should because there is plenty of land available. But at the end of the day, what we talked about at the last meeting was that this property would be heavily landscaped and there would be significant berms to hide the trucks. I have one last question. If you need to hide a business on a primary access on the entrance to the city like this, is it the right use? We're talking about hiding this business. Does that make it the highest and best use in this site? Thank you.
Questions, Kermit?
Yeah, Jeff, when do you plan to develop the land that you own there?
Well, we've been marketing the property, and as I stated at the last meeting, at one point we had a hotel developer wanting to do a conference center. We don't have a particular use in mind right now. The economy has obviously had a serious impact on that, but I can't tell you that we have a particular plan right now.
I guess my concern is that, is really simply over property rights. And let's suppose that you want to have a development there and the neighborhood says, no, we don't like your development. You see what I mean?
I've already been there.
Yeah, well, it's not very pleasant not being able to exercise your property rights.
I've already been there, and we spent, like I said, we spent a couple of long hours, Mr. Cooper can attest to that, a couple of long nights, meeting on this and hashing out what does and doesn't make sense there. It is a property right deal, and I propose to you that I have property rights too. When we bought that property, we bought it knowing that Flying J was there. We did not buy it anticipating and pay what we paid for it, anticipating that we were going to get a truck stop or a truck wash next to it. So they have property rights, we have property rights. There are plenty of properties available where they can exercise their property rights. This is not a hardship to this group. They can find a piece of property. If this were the last piece of property available, then I think we'd be talking about property rights, but I'm not sure this is...
as you were saying that in regard to this property we're talking about with the truck wash, those same arguments could maybe be used in regard to you trying to build something on your property. You see what I mean?
When the day
Once
comes,
you get into
when the
that,
day comes, that argument could be used against us. And in fact, after the last meeting, when I reported back to the group that owns this piece of property, the reaction that I got was, go apply for a major amendment to get truck uses on our property, because if we're going to have a truck use on the corner, that's probably going to dictate what's going to happen on the rest of the property there. So we should get in line for a major amendment. That was the reaction I got. We have not done that. We've looked into that, but we have not done that. I don't care to escalate the level of trucks out there. It's a gateway. There are how many cities in this country, how many cities in this entire country would like to have two interstates that do this and be a quarter of a mile, half a mile away from this? I live in Aberdeen. You know what we would pay to have two interstates, to have one interstate? And to take it and turn it into, you know, I'm sorry if I'm going to offend anybody in this room. I went out to 90 and Cliff Avenue, and I'm not sure that anybody on this council wants this interchange to turn into 90th and Cliff Avenue. That may be offensive. I'm sorry if it is.
so, you know, I guess, you know, myself, I'm really amazed that the interchange at I-90 and I-29 has not been developed. I mean, talk about prime real estate. But then
you can
might
say
have
that
some
about any
people-
part of that about any part of Sioux Falls. Growth happens; it moves in particular directions. The traffic, Shannon, I believe, at the traffic engineer told me that the city is in the process of doing a traffic study that would basically, if I've got this right, and I may be wrong, but from 90th, from I-29 east all the way over to 229 and north of 60th, because they see this as the primary growth corridor in the next X number of years. So they are very concerned about the traffic flow and what's going to happen there. They see it. Should this have developed 10 or 15 or 20 years ago? I don't know. But there are parts of the city that developed 10 or 15 years ago. That's just how development happens. This is now prime.
Further questions, Steve?
You know, I don't have a question. I just can't resist because I've been in meetings too many hours today. I just wanted just to lighten the tone for a moment and to just tell you we welcome you to move to our city because we have those interstates like that, and we're looking for more citizens like you.
Further questions?
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. Others that wish to address the council on item number 24? Not. Just somebody.
If nobody's coming forward, I was going to make a motion to call the question, so if it won't be necessary.
Okay. I see no one coming forward. Okay. Do you want to?
I'm Tom Odie with NAI Sioux Falls Commercial. I'm representing both Flying J and also the potential buyer of the property. You know, I appreciate what everybody has said. I do share some of the concerns with Jeff Stockett because I realize he's got a huge investment. But aside from that, you know, we're in kind of a unique time. Sioux Falls really has a need for a truck wash at this time. You know, there's 345 plus trucks a day. Those trucks have to get washed somewhere at some point in time. And it, to me, is it is an economic question for Sioux Falls. They need to have not only the construction of the building, but they also need the tax dollars. And it's a good, strong site. Traffic flow in is good. It'll get better as 61st develops out. The access is it will get better as the planning matures for the city. And I also want to be very careful, but the Skyline Heights folks have been compensated over the years. Flying J did tell me that back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they did dedicate 30 feet by 1,200 and some feet on the very southern border of the Skyline Heights. And that was bermed and landscaped for the very purposes that we're trying to screen them from any disruptions. So there has been some compensation on the part of Flying J to Skyline Heights. The other thing is, Skyline is not necessarily, averse to trucks. I was there today, and across from Gary's house, there is a semi sitting in his neighbor's driveway. So they are storing trucks. There's also a trailer just not too far away, about 2 blocks to the south. So there's a semi-traffic of some sort, whether it's 1 or 2 trucks, I don't know. But there's traffic there already within that quiet rural residential area. So with that, I'd just like to encourage the council to please vote yes. It is a good, strong project for the city. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you very much. Others?
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Drew. Keep it brief, Gary, if you would.
Know exactly what Tom's talking about. We've had issues with these two people before, but in the ordinances in the county and the city, they can park their semi-tractor in their driveway. Can't park the trailer. Now, the guy that he's talking about that's got the trailer, we're trying to get him out of there, and I've been working with the county planning, or the county planning and zoning to get him out. So this isn't something that's we're not aware of.
Okay, thank you. Joe, question?
I have a comment, but later.
Okay. Others? Go ahead, Pat.
I have a question for Mike. Mike, can you shed some light on the Planning Commission discussion on this and where that was at? It came to us as a recommendation.
Again, during my introductory comments tonight, when the Planning Commission hearing was held, we did not have this degree of neighborhood input. And again, I think it's because of the lack of knowledge of the surrounding property owners of what was being proposed. So and I'll just do a little speculation tonight, but had there been this level of testimony, I would say 2 things potentially would have happened. That the Planning Commission would have said, we want you to go back and have a neighborhood meeting and see if you can work out the differences. And if that's not an option, then I believe that their recommendation would have been different. But maybe it's not appropriate for me to speculate. But again, the recommendation from the Planning Commission was without the neighborhood input that you're hearing tonight.
What was the vote on that, do you recall?
I believe it was unanimous.
Unanimous vote?
Yes.
Can you tell me noise ordinances? I know, the county, whatever their laws, ordinances are, but for the city, if this were to eventually become all part of the city, when a noise level, and it really isn't necessarily pertain to the truck wash any more than it does the plaza itself, but the noise level, where does that take? And if the noise level at midnight exceeds a residential at the residential boundary, what governs? Is it the noise? But it may be at an acceptable level at the plaza boundary. How does that work?
It's based on the property line.
On the property.
Yes.
So if there are the residents there and it exceeds the acceptable residential level, then what would you do, or what would the health department do? I guess. I mean, would they go and tell them you have to reduce your level?
Yes. If there was a complaint,
If there was a
typically, yeah.
complaint.
Mhm. The subject property is in the city limits currently.
But Skyline Heights.
Yes, Skyline Heights is not currently in the
Right.
city limits.
And that's why, so I mean, their noise ordinances, if they were in the
Yep.
city, they can effectively, hold to the city's residential noise ordinance.
Yeah, the noise
But at this
ordinance.
point, they can't.
Right.
Questions? Any more?
I'm ready for a motion when you are.
Okay. Try to keep it brief, please. Go ahead. Just give your name.
My name is Mike Kokanj, and I'm a resident of Skyline Heights. There's one issue that I think Kermit brought up that hasn't been really addressed much tonight, and that's when they build this median, or there is a proposed median that's going to be going in there. And as I understand it, it's going to go from Interstate 29 to Kiwanis. Now, I believe that all the traffic off of 29, and anything coming from the west of Flying J is going to have to go up to Kiwanis, turn left and go north to 61st Street, then turn back and go west to go to either the truck stop, the truck wash, the restaurant, the hotel, or anything else that's going to be developed out there. And I was reading a traffic study today that said that there are, on Granite Lane right now, there are 8,900 vehicles that use that a day. Now, that seems like a lot of vehicles that are going to be using our backyards, basically, on 61st Street to get to any of that commercial business back there. And maybe I'm wrong on this, I don't know. If somebody could explain to me what's going on there with 61st Street, because I don't completely understand it. Maybe, you've brought it up before. Yeah. Or the traffic,
Mike
somebody in
Cooper.
traffic has brought this up?
Mike Cooper, I think it's been quite a few. Mike, go ahead. I think there's been quite a few conversations on this
Yeah, I think
topic.
the whole discussion about medians is really not, to me, an issue tonight because there hasn't been any proposal put forth. There's a number of uses that are currently allowed that would have traffic impacts that we would have to look at. There is a subdivision plan, which is up on the screen now, that does show where the streets are planned to go into the future. And so there is an access that would go from Granite all the way east to Kiwanis based on the approved subdivision plan. But again, all the discussion about traffic flows is going to apply to any type of development that goes on. What we're really being asked to consider tonight is a land use amendment.
Right. And we don't know the answer to that question because the DOT has.
Yeah, Mike, I guess.
Mike?
I guess, you mentioned this is all very preliminary, and but I guess my concern is that as far as the planning field goes, they love dividers, and we're getting more and more dividers in Sioux Falls. And so if we would have a divider here, then you have these trucks coming from the west going east. They have to get to Flying J, and they're going to turn on Kiwanis. They're not going to make a U-turn. They're going to continue on up there to where that possible, I can't read that, is that 61st?
61st, yes.
They're going to get down that. Now, to me, that's a bigger problem than this car wash. So, I mean, obviously I'm against dividers. I think they decrease mobility, and this is a planning fad, and
That's why we
wouldn't have them.
That's why we haven't made any final decisions on that.
Yeah, but I mean, the potential for that happening, I think is very great.
The state's got a lot of other ideas
Yes.
that they want to share with us, so that's a long way out. We're talking about a different issue. Others wish to address the council? Not? Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to deny the recommendation of the Planning Commission on this major amendment. Knudsen. I realize it's written in the affirmative, but I've been visiting with the city attorney, and this is the wording he suggested to me, because I realize it's written in the affirmative, so I'm trying to say it differently. He suggested my wording, so that's what I used. But I realize it's written in the affirmative, that's why I was trying to work around it.
Read it again, please.
You don't want to accept the record.
I do not, yeah, I'm a no on the way it's written right now, okay? So I'm trying to say that in this way. And if someone can help me better, I'll take it. I make a motion to deny the recommendation of the Planning Commission on this major amendment.
Is that an affirmative?
If you vote yes, you deny it.
Second, let's.
Okay. You vote. Okay. Does that work?
Obviously it's whatever you want it to be. In the past, what we've done is we've made a motion to approve it, and then you just vote no. So the motion is in the affirmative. but it's your motion, so.
And I follow you, and I was a little unsure what to do here, so since I sit right here, I'm going to try this one.
I'm going to move a substitute a motion to approve, but I want to address it if I get a second to that.
Second, Benninga.
Okay, Brown made a motion.
As a way of explanation to those in the audience.
Benninga seconded to approve. Okay, go ahead.
What we're trying to do is keep to the language that is here. I don't support this, so those that are against it will vote no. Those that are for it will vote yes.
That's the motion. Further comments on the motion to approve? Okay, Pat.
I came into tonight, and we all got a tremendous amount of emails from many of you and some phone conversations as well. And I really couldn't understand why a truck wash was so offensive to you. I thought there was confusion on a truck wash versus a truck wash out. And the amount with the road, I think there was some confusion last time around with how the access was going to be done. They can get access. But with that being said, what I didn't have an understanding of was that the original intention of the agreement of the plan development, that it had specifically left out a truck wash, that there was only items that were going to be in it. In my mind, it's a natural area for a truck wash. I mean, with the businesses on the south side, I understand you have a residential use close to the north, but to me, it just seemed like it was a natural. But I respect and understand your concern, and the prevailing concern for me now was living up to an agreement that apparently was made prior to this. And I feel terrible for the applicants because I think these people had no idea of the understanding that was agreed to at that time. I don't believe they have anything. I mean, you're buying this property or proposed to buy it from Flying J, and I would have thought maybe they could have been more forthcoming on the history of the development.
Okay.
Yes. I think from what I've said this evening, it shouldn't be surprising, my position on this. My primary concern is the exercise of property rights. This is a fundamental right that all of us have as Americans. You take a look at our Constitution. It is mentioned in our Constitution as one of our fundamental rights 2 times, in the 5th and 14th Amendments. This is not to be taken lightly. But unfortunately, when you get down to the local level like this, where we talk about zoning, land use, and so forth, property rights, let's face it, go by the wayside. And that should not be the case. Because when we talk about, for example, in this case, a truck wash on this property, well, it has to comply with ordinances dealing with light, noise, litter, and so forth, because you cannot have a spillover effect from one property to another property. So we already have ordinances dealing with this, because I certainly don't want Skyline Heights to, people waking up every night to the noise of a car wash going on, when we have ordinance to prevent that from happening. But also it's important to keep in mind that for those residents of Skyline Heights, I respect your property rights greatly, because as a hypothetical, let's suppose after we deal with this issue, we would have a motion to annex Skyline Heights into the city. Well, I'm sure many of you would not want that at all. And I would vote against that, because for those of you that would not want your property to become part of Sioux Falls, I would respect that and vote against it. Now, for those who would want their property in Sioux Falls, I'd vote for you. So what we have to do is that property rights affects everybody. In this particular case, we're focusing on the the truck wash. But also, please keep in mind, we have to respect your property rights too. And one way to do this is that if a motion would ever be made in the future to annex you into the city and you don't want to join, well, we certainly should not allow that to happen. You should not be annexed against your will.
Got a motion been made and seconded to approve item 24?
Well, I need to make a couple of comments, and I do appreciate Mr. Stagers' comments, but I'm not going to argue with him because I haven't won an argument in 7 years in his mind. I think property rights, from my perspective, are the people who, frankly, a number of years ago, who made that investment, who came together and developed a C4 plan development, who made investments in their home, who decided that they wanted to live there, and they wanted their property's rights protected also. There are other people who have developed around that development, who have made substantial investments in property values to make it a gateway into this community. They've paid premium prices, and they've done that based on their property evaluation. And frankly, they're making some of their investments based on the fact that we did this planning a long time ago. We've been planning ahead for at least 10 to 15 to 25 years. I think it's important that we respect that planning process and that we respect the rights of the people who are there first and the ones who made the agreement that they need to have their properties protected. So I would hope, regardless of Kermit always wanting the last word, that we would definitely protect those individuals first and that we would vote no against something that's been planned and been put in place and agreed to way back when.
Got a motion made. Go ahead.
I guess I would like to respond to that because what's going on here, Gerald is not even addressing what I'm talking about. He's talking about something else. He's talking about economic issues, and that's a legitimate argument you can make. There's no doubt about it. But please remember that we do have a Constitution, and we do have our country being founded on three basic principles, and they're found in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution: life, liberty, and property. These are important fundamental rights that all Americans have. And you go ahead and make an economic argument. That's okay. But that's not my focus, obviously. My focus is on the constitutional rights that we have.
Okay, we got a motion made, second to approve. Item 24, a yes vote will accept the planned district up there. A no vote will defer it.
Deferred or denied?
Deferred? Denied, excuse me, denied. Thank you. Okay, so everybody understands the vote. Okay, here we go.
Councilors?
Go ahead.
Councilors Anderson?
No.
Benega?
No.
Brown?
No.
Costello?
No.
Jameson?
No.
Knudsen?
No.
Litz?
Heck no.
Staggers?
Yes.
All members present vote. Item 24 has been defeated. 7 no and 1 yes. Item 25.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by changing city council district designations for districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as proposed by the Districting Commission.
Mayor and City Council, Deborah Owens, City Clerk. On May 4th, the Districting Commission brought a report and a plan to amend the district precinct boundaries forward to the council. By charter, the council had a window of 21 days to exercise the option of rejecting the precinct changes and sending it back to the commission. The council chose not to exercise that option. The final step in this process is to make the changes to city ordinance to reflect the precinct changes as proposed by the Districting Commission. As you know, the commission worked diligently in their service to the city and the council on this project. The commission was diligent in providing opportunity for the public to be engaged in this process, and all of their meetings were publicized and open to the public. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Others that wish to address the council on item number 25? Motions?
I guess I have a comment first or question. Is that, again, I realize that on this issue, which is in the long run real low importance to me on which way we go on this one tonight, because I'm not certain by charter that we need to do this by ordinance. I realize there's a difference of opinion between the city clerk and the city attorney on this, but I reviewed the city charter language, and I guess I'm curious why we think we need to do this, and the fact that it was done in 2001 doesn't really matter to me. I mean that doesn't give me anything legally to stand on, because I don't know if it was necessary in 2001. So would you help me, Deborah, on what I'm missing on this?
We have an ordinance. There's a blue book back behind all of us. That's our city code, and those are the ordinances that are adopted by the council. So right now we have an ordinance that has been adopted by the council that shows all of the district precincts boundaries and how those districts are divided amongst the 5 council members who are district council members. And so that map is out there. It is from 2001, and then the council has subsequently split precincts from time to time as our city grows, especially on the southern end of Sioux Falls. And so that is on the books right now. And what this would do, of course, when the commission brought forward their plan, if you go back to that May 4th meeting, you'll see they brought an ordinance as well. And so this ordinance amends that, and it revises the ordinance that is the law now to reflect that new change.
Okay. And thank you. And the only part that I'm wondering about a little bit, and again on a 1 to 100 scale, this is real low for me, is that since the charter language, which I don't have right in front of me, but was reviewing it over supper time as I was quickly having a hamburger, is the language is something about, once the plan is, once the council doesn't, we accept the plan by not sending it back in 21 days, that the plan is just, it's like just adopted. And so, so I'm just saying that wording seems pretty clear to me that, obviously putting this in ordinance form doesn't hurt anything in my mind, so I don't want to make anyone think I think that. But it just seems to me that the charter makes it very clear that this plan then is adopted, and so that to me would stand whether or not we do an ordinance or not. And so I don't know. And that's where I'm struggling, but it's like says low on the totem pole for me.
Further questions? Okay, if others wish to address the council on item number 25, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Denise Tucker, and I am a resident of Northeast Sioux Falls, and where I vote is affected by this. Right now, I am in the Northeast District. If you do not adopt this, from what I understand, I go to the charter to see what the laws are of the city. So if I do go to the charter, it tells me that's my district. How am I supposed to know as a citizen if you change it and it hasn't been announced properly through, the vote of the council, in the papers, on the maps and everything else where I am to vote? I'm also concerned in terms of, as an assistant city clerk, that we have people coming in to register to become council members. How are they to know if they are in the Central District or Northeast District? Where are they? How are they to register to become a council member? I speak solely as a citizen. These are my concerns based on how it affects me personally.
So I have a question for you as a citizen. I'll say this very respectfully. And so does the language in the city charter where does that fit in for you?
I can go there and it tells me, that I'm like in District 5-3 or whatever, and that's how the county's going to know how to find me, how I am to register to vote. Yes, I go to Terry Redland Elementary School, or if it's switched out, I go to Wesley. It's kind of a pebble effect. It's a ripple effect with it. Thank you.
Others who wish to address the council, item 25. Not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Jamison made a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded. Further comments? Not. All in favor, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Anderson.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Knutson.
No.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 no. Item 25 has been approved. Item 26.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, repealing Appendix D entitled Floodplain Management, Appendix of the Code of Ordinances of said city.
Good evening, Jeffrey Schmidt, representing planning staff on a few items this evening. This item 26, we're asking to repeal Appendix D. It's the floodplain management ordinance. American Legal has asked us to move Appendix D into the chapter. It's a housekeeping measure to get it out of an appendix and into sections of the code.
Questions of Jeff on item 26? Others wish to address council on item number 26? Is there council discussion or motion?
Move for approval, Benninga.
Benninga moves. Is there a second?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconds. Further comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just a quick comment, Jeff, and it may be my screen or whatever, because I haven't done it in person, but I have a difficult time trying to read that map.
We'll get that in 27.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're correct.
Further comments? No one else wish to address council on item 26? We got a motion made and second. All in favor of the motion, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Anderson, Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
All member present voted 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 26. Item 27 now.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by adding a Chapter 45 to be entitled Floodplain Management Ordinance.
Back in October of 2007, FEMA gave the City of Sioux Falls the floodplain management maps. As we've gone through this 2-year process of trying to inform the public about not only the floodplain boundaries and the new maps, they have also, as of March 2nd of 2009, given us the new format for the floodplain management ordinance. This is a federal document that we put in place back in 1982. We're asking to be putting it in place again in September of 2009. It's a federal document that basically talks about building within either the floodplain or the floodway, how you regulate those, what the building codes look like, and having, if you do construct in the floodplain, having the buildings raised up out of the floodplain in the base flood elevations. To look at some of the issues that we've been trying to deal with basically over the last 2 years. The map that you see in front of you right now, or go back one, Dave. This is the existing map that we've been using. It was back in 1982. You can see the city limits, the white area, and you can see the existing floodplain. There was 800 structures within the city that was in the floodplain. Now if you move forward to today, the west side of Sioux Falls was impacted by this new floodplain. There is a larger area that is in the new floodplain. We went from 800 structures to 2,600 structures. We've had approximately 8 to 10 public meetings on this where we've brought these maps to the public. This map, or maps like this, have been on our website since October of 2007. We get numerous phone calls every day to my office. We get walk-ins to my office where people say, I cannot read this document. Go to the next one, Dave. This is a blow-up of basically the federal map. This is what they have to read. What people want to know is, can you tell me if my property's in? No, I cannot. I can not make that determination for them. This is 12th and Kiwanis area. You get streets. You do not get properties. You do not get parcels. You get cross sections of roads. A lot of you council members have been to these meetings where you have 300 or 400 people in a room all asking, tell me if my property's in or not. That's not really the determination that the federal government's trying to make. They want the public, the property owners, to look at these maps and say, okay, the black, the gray area, that's zone AE. That's obviously in. Okay, the white area is zone X, that's out. So people can go, yeah, I'm out, I'm in. Well, what happens when you're along that wavy line? Well, again, from the federal government in Fargo, in Aberdeen, in New Orleans, in Iowa last year, they can't really tell you where the flood's going to go. They can't say it's going to stop on your curb, it's going to stop in your driveway. They're giving you their model, their idea of saying, well, it's going to be in this area based on the contours and what they understand. So it is, for best use, it's a gray area. And that's the challenge that the planning and the zoning staff has had over the last 2 years when the public comes in and says, just tell me, am I in or out? We can't make those determinations. We try to explain to them, and again, each conversation is 10 to 15 minutes long with property owners to try to help them understand, and it gets down to if they think they're at risk, they should really get insurance. If they don't think they're ever going to make a claim, if they're never going to have flooding, don't get insurance. That's the one aspect. At the same time, the real thing that we need to understand and what we're trying to do tonight if we approve this, if we support and belong to the National Flood Insurance Program, anybody in Sioux Falls can get insurance. At the same time, if we do not approve this, if we do not participate, no one in the city of Sioux Falls can get flood insurance. The other aspect that they have, the federal government has with us, is if we ever have flooding in Sioux Falls, like other communities, like we've had approximately 30 times in Sioux Falls, we can never receive federal funding to get help in Sioux Falls. So they want you to either participate with the program and participate in future funding or not. It's their program. They want you to look at their maps, use it to the best of our abilities, and proceed forward.
Thank you, Jeff. Question, Kermit?
Yeah, Jeff, you mentioned in your comments that this ordinance is a federal document. Is that correct? So did they actually write this and say, hey, guys, this is what you have to pass, or did we draft some of it and then get a stamp of approval from the feds?
The second one, sir.
Okay.
They gave us a format. We redrafted it. Then we had to send it to them to get format to check to make sure it still complied with their standards. And then we had the city attorneys review it concurrently to make sure that we weren't changing it to be against what their standards were. But they also agreed to what we made for changes.
Okay, so yeah, in effect, this is, I agree with you, this is a federal document
This
here
is a
that
federal
we're dealing
document.
with tonight. That being the case, are there any federal people here that can take questions?
No.
Okay. Thanks for mentioning the negative consequences here, that, if the city council does not approve this, the federal government will not allow flood insurance.
Correct.
And since they have a monopoly on flood insurance, this is be devastating for the citizens of Sioux Falls. And also, thanks for your other comment about if we didn't pass this, we can't take part in other federal relief programs. So I think it's pretty obvious here. This is not really a choice that we have. This is really being mandated by the federal government. Is there any other comment? No, I guess I don't have any other comments.
Further questions of Jeff? Item 27. Others that wish to address the council on item number 27? Not? Is there a motion?
I move for approval of item number 27, Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second? Second, Costello seconds. Further comments on the motion to approve item 27?
Yeah. In my comments on this ordinance, first of all, let me assure the audience and those watching on Channel 16 that these flood maps will be approved tonight. There's no question about that. You will be able to get your flood insurance. At the informational meeting earlier today, I mentioned that I would vote for this measure if my vote was needed to pass the ordinance. But it is not needed. So I will be voting no, to send a message to the federal government that the Sioux Falls City Council is not unanimous in literally being forced by Washington to accept these maps. When I served in the state Senate, from time to time, there would be a vote on the floor of the Senate in which we were told we had to pass a law because the feds said we had to. That made many senators, including myself, very unhappy because our Constitution provides for a system of federalism in which the national government, in effect, does its own thing and the state and local governments do their own thing with very little overlap of power. This was designed, federalism, to keep power in our country decentralized. Obviously, over the course of 220 years, power has become more centralized in Washington, D.C., to the point where the Sioux Falls City Council has no real choice and must now vote for the flood maps that the federal government has created for the city of Sioux Falls.
Okay, we've got motion for us, made and seconded. Further comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve item 27, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello? Yes. Jameson?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
No.
Staggers?
No.
We have 5 yes, 2 no, and 1 excuse. Item 27 has been approved. Item 28.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota by amending Appendix B, zoning ordinance, Chapter 15.43, Drive Design Review District.
Approximately 2 years ago, we placed we amended the city ordinances for the overlay district for the airport. The map you see in front of you is the overlay district that's currently in place around the airport to help address any impacts that may be associated with the airport. Over the last 2 years, issues have been arised based upon the building permits that we were using to place navigation easements on properties in this area. Over a year ago, we put a moratorium in place, and we no longer did the easements for these properties, and we went back and studied this issue and came up with a new proposal. The new proposal is a much better geographic boundary. We're using Interstate 90 on the north, Interstate 29 on the west, Cliff Avenue on the east, and Madison Street on the south. There was approximately 10 to 15 stakeholders on this group that studied this issue. What we really tried to do is look at where the impacts were that were being risen by the airport from the flight patterns and the noise issues. This is the map that we currently have to use when we look at the impacts from the airport to the City of Sioux Falls. We wanted something that was really easier to understand and use. So again, the map that we're proposing is the one that we have up on the screen. We went back and adjusted the ordinance to address that. We also have put into place right now the ordinance that you see in front of you that does not address building permits as much as it does rezoning. So as you see this map in front of you, if a property owner would come in and rezone their property to residential, we would ask them to please put an navigation easement on their property. They still have rights to do other non-residential uses in this area, but residential is not the preferred land use next to airport because of all the impacts. Again, we think that would address the majority of the issues. Most property owners would say, fine, I'll put an navigation easement on my residential property with the rezoning, because then at that point, future people living in that area would know that they were being impacted. If they did not do that, then they would be able to come before not only Planning Commission but City Council and address their issues. There would still be an appeal process to address that. It's not an automatic, you have to. We would ask them to do it to try to address it. Again, the way we see this taking place is if they didn't put the navigation easement on their property, at least it would be on record where they would be standing up here in front of this body saying, I want to put residential in this area. We know during air shows, during military operations, during these, there's going to be impacts. However, we understand that, and those issues won't come back to this body or staff in the future, where people will be calling us like they do now and saying, it's noisy, the flights are too much, and we have problems living this close to the airport. So those are the changes that we've made to this new ordinance.
Questions of Jeff on item number 28? Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeff, on the map there, it has Skyline Heights
Yes,
being
sir.
covered by this. I wish some of the people from Skyline Heights were still here.
I wish they would have too.
I would ask, what authority do we have to impose this over Skyline Heights, since they're not even in the city?
It doesn't impact them because they're already residential.
No, see, we're including them in this area.
Correct.
We've drawn a line. They're
Yep.
included.
Yep.
They're not even in the city of Sioux Falls. How can we put them in this when they're not even part of the city of Sioux Falls?
Their geographic area falls within the boundary. We drew the boundary up to the interstate as a good geographic boundary. They're a residential area. Again, there's no impacts from what we're changing. The impacts are already there to their property. Since they're not rezoning anything, there's not a change to what they are currently or in the future.
I guess...
I understand what you're saying, but there's no change to what's happening to them.
I guess then, to say it another way then, why aren't we having a joint meeting with the county commission to put them in this? They're not in the city of Sioux Falls. You see what I mean? when we have joint jurisdiction, then we have a joint meeting and discuss this and vote on it. But here, we have not had a meeting to discuss this.
It's such a small area that, again, what we're trying to address is the city limits of Sioux Falls and the overlay district for the city of Sioux Falls. I'm not doing an overlay district for Minnehaha County. It does not impact Minnehaha County.
They're in Minnehaha County.
So are the citizens of Sioux Falls.
Okay, I guess I haven't been convinced yet that that we should be, at least as a minimum, having a joint meeting with the county commission to deal with them. Also, in regard to this, you have here in 15.43.108, the second paragraph. It says an navigation easement shall be placed on property.
Keep going.
Within the noise exposure zone when a building permit for substantial improvements to a habitable residential structure is being requested. In your comments, you said they would be strongly encouraged, I believe you said.
Yes, I did.
Here, they have to do it.
On rezoning, on rezoning of properties within that boundary, if they're in the noise exposure zone, that is at the end of the runways at 65 decibels. If they're doing a building permit at the end of the runways for a habitable residential structure. Correct.
So they don't have a choice?
No.
Okay. Down on 15.43.110, if I could just read part of the paragraph. Within the Airport Influence Overlay District, a navigation easement may, I like the word may there, may be conveyed to the Sioux Falls Regional Authority by property owners subdividing lands, initiating substantial construction of any habitable structure on already subdivided land. So here, if you're going to build a new structure, that's the way I read it, a habitable structure, you may get an easement. You don't have to, you may. But if you're going to make an improvement on a structure, habitable structure already, you have to get an easement.
No, only in regards to if you're in the noise exposure zone, which is at the end of the runways in 65 decibels. Again, this section that you're reading to and referring to right now is the 1543.110 on navigation easements. Do you have the right to have an navigation easement? We put the enabling rights in here that you can do an easement.
Okay. Can you clarify the noise exposure zone?
I brought my entire file last time, Mr. Staggers, and I do not have the entire file this time. I brought all the legals and the easements and the releases. I do not have the exposure zone at this time.
Okay.
But it's on file. We have it at City Hall as well as we have it at the airport. It shows where the noise exposure zone is at the end of the runways that raises the decibels to 65 by Federal Aviation Administration regulations.
Can you build a new home in that noise exposure zone?
Can you build?
New habitable structure,
in the noise
residential structure in that noise zone?
Yes, you can, but you'd have to put an navigation easement on there that you are going to be impacted by noise.
Okay. And then just one last question, I believe. It's on the zoning regulations. Can you clarify, when it says residential, it says a navigation easement for noise and vibrations will be required. Is this being added? The way I'm reading this, it looks like this is new to the ordinance. Is that right, Jeff?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Why did we put all that in there?
These are
Because
the-
we have down, for example, like if you want to build an office or institutional, you can do that with 3 conditions. The parcel contains 3 acres of land or less. The building contains 50,000 square feet of area or less. Signed acknowledgement of the airport influence overlay district. Why did we put all that in there? Any reasons?
Very good reason, sir.
Okay.
Inside this boundary, if you're coming in to change your zoning to residential, office, commercial, or recreation conservation, those things in the change of zone as it's listed on the left-hand side, what are your regulations for approval? That was my initial statement, that if you're changing it to residential, we would do an navigation easement. If you're changing it to office institutional, these are your standards. If you're changing it to commercial, this is, that was the overriding issue that came out of the last overlay district, that you didn't want it by building permits. We met as a committee, we changed it to doing it by zoning changes. So if someone comes into this area, it's not on existing properties that are already zoned. It's if they come in for a change of zone, we would ask them based upon these standards.
Yeah, I guess I was intrigued by, you have to have, for office, one condition is that parcel contains 3 acres of land or less.
Correct.
Why not 2 acres? Or I'm always intrigued with why
Sure.
we have...
Based on the office and the institutional, it's a capacity issue. For 3 acres or less, or 50,000 square feet of property, it's how many people can be within that property. And again, we're not only talking about noise in this area, but it's a crash zone too. And federal aviation regulations look at how many people are going to be occupying the structures within this parameter, and they don't want large office buildings next to the airport that may be impacted by crash zones. So we're fine with these smaller areas that don't have as many occupants, but if you get larger, we want to look at it. It should come before this body, and you say, should there be 50 people? Should there be 500,000 people in a building? And you know what? That might be too many people to have at the end of a runway. You have the right to review those things.
Okay, I'm sorry, just one last one. So is that within that red area, or is it just off the airport runways?
Is what?
These zoning regulations.
Zoning regulations are within that overlay district, which is the red boundary.
So there's a lot of that area that airplanes aren't even going to fly.
No, this is the area, this is the entire city of Sioux Falls. That's where airplanes fly. And that was, the yellow area is the boundary that we were using before, and you wanted me to shrink it down. So now we've decreased it into about half. Because not only do you have to look at the yellow area, but you have to look at all those flight patterns outwards, the spirals outwards. You can't build within those areas. It's the transition zone, the conical zone, and the approach zones. You can't go up too far or out too far within each one of those districts by federal aviation regulations. Each one of those has to be reviewed by FAA regulations. We shrunk it down into a small little box so that the public can look at it and just go, oh, now I understand. Within this parameter, then if you go back to the other map, this is what we have to look at. Where can you build, where can't you build? FAA regulations.
Go ahead, Greg.
Jeff, I think your changes are good, and I only wish we would have had this in the beginning, but we're okay. I think
Takes us a while to get there sometimes.
I think these changes allow the airport to hopefully be successful, and the property owners around it to know exactly what they've got to deal with. And I'd like to move for approval.
And I'll second that motion, Knutson.
Motion to approve by Jameson, seconded by Knutson. Let me just ask, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to item 28? If not, we've got a motion.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just to comment, Jeff, I know it's been probably over a year, and you've met with a smart and capable group of citizens and worked hard on this issue, and I've heard from several of them, and you obviously resolved the differences that we had, and I'd just like to thank you for your hard work. I think you went a little above the call of duty on this one, so thank you.
You know, I agree that this is a lot better than what we had before. But as I was looking at this today, I think there still has to be some refinement to it. And especially, dealing with incorporating Skyline Heights in there when we haven't even had a meeting with the county commission. I just move that we send this to the Land Use Committee and have some testimony on refining this and then bring it back.
That's your motion?
Yes.
Second?
Substitute motion.
Substitute motion.
Yeah. That dies for lack of a second, so we're back to the main motion that's been made and seconded to approve item 28. Further comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess since we're not having a substitute motion to have it go to committee, it's never been to committee, hasn't been to the county commission. I don't know why we didn't have a second to do something very reasonable. It makes it a dilemma here whether to vote for it or not.
Got the motion for us? All in favor? Vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
All members present voted 6 yes, 1 no, and 1 excused. Item 28 has been approved. Item 29.
Second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 1100 South Blaine Avenue from the C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to the RS2 Residential District, petition number 2009-05-18, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Dakota Abilities has an existing group home at this location. Excuse me. They're currently working on an expansion project, and this will allow them to construct an attached garage for storage and loading of residents in the area.
Questions of Mike on item number 29? Others who wish to address the council? Not. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments on the motion been made and seconded? All in favor of that
I guess
motion,
I
vote
do-
aye. Those opposed, go
Yeah,
ahead.
if I could just ask one quick question, Mike. Why do they have to go before us to get an attached garage?
The area that they're expanding into is currently zoned commercial.
Okay.
Got the motion before us. All in favor? Vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 29 has been approved. 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 30.
Second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property from 22nd Street to 26th Street and from Grange Avenue to Covell Avenue from the RS2 Residential District and the North American Baptist Seminary Plan Development District to Sub-Area A of Sanford USD Medical Center Plan Development District, petition number 2009-06-05, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant in this property is Sanford USD Medical Center. This is just under 20 acres of land area that's being proposed for zoning revision. The majority of it is part of the former North American Baptist Seminary campus, which has been acquired by Sanford. As we indicated at the first reading, 34 of the 53 properties within this zoning issue tonight are currently owned by Sanford. All of the property owners which are not owned by Sanford were given notice by certified mail, which is in accordance with the zoning ordinance requirements that was actually revised by City Council action. And to date, I'm not aware that any of those property owners have indicated that they're opposed to this zoning revision. And we do have a representative tonight for the petitioner, but we do have confirmation that everybody was notified in accordance with the zoning requirements.
Questions of Mike on item number 30? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike. At the first reading, I asked about how many in the affirmative said they would go along with this. Simply sending a certified letter does not indicate a vote yes. And do we have any better numbers on who really said yes? Go ahead, it's all right.
They all signed because it was sent by certified letter, and that's exactly what's required by the ordinance, which was a recommendation by this council.
Yeah.
and I'll read it to you. The applicant shall ensure that the property owners within the area desiring a zoning change have been notified. Notification may include signatures on the application or letters sent to the owners. The applicant shall provide evidence of such notification at the time of application, and we do have that.
Further questions?
Yes, I agree with you. That's what the ordinance says. But my question still was, how many do we know affirmed that they wanted this to happen? Do we have anybody that has affirmed it?
We don't have anybody that said they're against it.
Okay,
So it depends on what point of view you want to go after.
Further questions on item number 30 from Mike? Go ahead.
Just a comment. I'd like to remind Councilor Staggers that you were on Land Use Committee when we passed this ordinance out of there.
Yeah, and I might also mention, too, that this ordinance that we have is 1,000,000 times better than what we had before. But it's still not perfect either.
Well,
it could be a lot better.
Respectfully, we had our shot at it, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
and-
further comments? Is there others that wish to address the council on item number 30? Come forward, just give your name, please. Item 30.
My name is Carol Mashik. I live at 1014 West 22nd Street. I do not live in this area. I live one block outside of the area. I realize that I'm probably a voice in the wilderness, as I know that the hospitals in this town are icons and can do no wrong. But Sioux Valley Hospital has always been my hospital. I don't know who this Sanford Hospital is except an octopus with tentacles going out, decimating my neighborhood. If you take a look at the property on the north side of the property, if you take a look at the property within one block of my house, it looks like a bomb has been laid out. And I realize that many people in Sioux Falls consider parking lots progress. I do not. When I walk down Grange Avenue, I look at the building at the corner of 22nd and Grange and remember that the lot behind it was given by Winona Axel-Lyon to the University of Sioux Falls as the first lot for faculty housing. The next three little houses, I remember that these were the poker houses of the students from Sioux Falls College and Augustana College in the 1930s when they were not allowed to gamble. They could rent those houses for $5. I remember that the house at the corner of 22nd and Menlo was given by Norman B. Mears, who was a millionaire former student at the University of Sioux Falls. I see this neighborhood as an historic district neighborhood. I know that many people believe that you have the right to withstand a hospital like Sioux Valley if they come and want to buy your property. I had friends at the corner of 22nd and Grange on the northeast corner who were told, you don't have to sell your house to us. We will build around you. You'll be all alone in the middle of this parking lot. Nobody wants that. This ordinance, and I realize again that I'm probably crying in the wilderness, but this ordinance gives one more pound of pressure on these property owners who have not sold. I had a dream the other night. I have very vivid dreams. I took a group of children from the neighborhood around on a historic walk, and we stood in front of the statue of Mr. Sanford on 18th Street, and it fell on us. And we were all smattered to little puddles. And I feel that this is what's happening to my neighborhood. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Questions of Carol? Thank you very much for coming down, Carol. Others that wish to address the council on item number 30?
There are no property rights, by the way, in South Dakota, not with recent South Dakota government regulations, so that's a dream.
Okay, thank you. Others that wish to address the council on item number 30? Not. Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Bennigan moves. Is there a second?
Second, Jameson.
Jameson seconds. Further comments? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for our city attorney. Carol, bringing up the University of Sioux Falls, that's where I teach, and it's within 300 feet of this. can I vote on this or not?
I don't think there's anything that says you can't, because you aren't a property owner in that area.
Okay.
I would always say that when I would sit on anything in my former life, is if I didn't feel comfortable, I wouldn't hesitate to exercise the right to recuse myself from the vote. I think you could do that too if you feel comfortable.
Okay. No, I guess I feel comfortable in voting on this.
Pardon?
I feel comfortable in voting on this, so long
We
as
got a
I'm not.
motion made and seconded. Further comments? Not all in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
All members present voted 6 yes, 1 no, and 1 excused. Item 30 has been approved. Item 31.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Appendix C of the 2002 revised ordinances for Minnehaha County and the City of Sioux Falls by amending the text pertaining to salvage and junkyards, produce sales, recreation, and bed and breakfasts, and by amending the A1 agricultural, RC recreation conservation districts, I1 and I2 industrial districts, and the definitions.
This is a significant series of changes to our joint zoning ordinance that we currently have with Minnehaha County. Both city and county staff have been working on this to address some issues that we want to the city ordinance and the 3 mile or joint zoning ordinance to be in conformance. The first set of changes, we're adding definitions pertaining to junkyards, recycling facilities, and salvage operations. And these new definitions are based on similar standards to what we have currently in the City of Sioux Falls. We're also adding definitions for bed and breakfast, recreation facilities, produce stands, and farmers markets. The produce stand and farmers markets are new uses which are going to be added to the agricultural and recreation conservation districts. We're changing the term recreational facility to substitute for a private outdoor recreation facility. And then we're also changing the location of some of the requirements pertaining to telecommunication towers and broadcast towers so that they're all in one section of the joint zoning ordinance. So a lot of it is just to address conformity with the city and also adding definitions that are referred to in the ordinance but are not currently part of the ordinance.
Questions of Mike on item number 31? Not? Go ahead.
Yeah, if I can just ask a quick question here. I wasn't able to ask you earlier, but on that airport overlay, are we going to ask the county commission to also vote on that?
I haven't thought about that, to be honest with you, because the Skyline Heights is the only small park, so that's not within the city limits of that area.
But I mean, we're having that overlay district cover them.
We'll take a look at that.
Okay. Because we're talking about joint here, and I'm just wondering why we wouldn't have, joint there.
We'll take a look at that and see if that's an appropriate recommendation.
Is there a motion set the hearing date for the second reading for Monday, August 17th for item number 31?
I so move Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconds. Further comments? All in favor of setting that hearing date, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
All members present voted. The hearing date has been set for August 17th for items 31, 7 yes, and 1 excused. Item 32.
A resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards.
That's just, that's just the council to set their appointments for the councils there.
CCOG and UDC.
Yeah. Is there a
Do you want a
motion?
motion on that?
Yeah.
Okay, I move for approval of item number 32, Knutson. Again, for those listening, it's, boards and the city council, citizen boards the city council sits on.
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds. Further comments? Others would like to address the council on item 32. If not, all in favor vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 32 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 33.
A resolution to amend and restate Resolution 15-07 as a goal that the city maintain an 11% monthly unrestricted cash balance and a 25% general fund reserve balance at year end, that future budgets of the city balance establishing a council policy regarding the use of projected revenue from fee or tax increases in any budget adopted by the council, and establishing a council policy on the use of enterprise funds.
Everybody okay, is there a motion to that?
Move for approval, Benninga.
Bennigan moves, is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconds. Further comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Motion approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 34.
A resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Annexation 2008-07-01, northeast corner of Westport Avenue and Benson Road, Sanford.
This is a petition by Sanford Health, the owner of this property, requesting annexation. The area shown in yellow is approximately 150 acres. The southern boundary is Benson Road. The eastern boundary is the Big Sioux River, and the western boundary is Westport Avenue. The area that's being excluded in the northwest is approximately 15 acres of this area. This also includes the property that's been proposed for donation to the city for the future junior football complex.
Questions of Mike on item 34? Kermit.
Yeah, Mike, on the football field, have we received title to the property yet, or do you know when we will?
I don't believe we have yet. We have a representative tonight that maybe could answer that. But we have not yet.
Okay.
I don't know the specific time when that's going to happen.
Okay.
Aren't they working on agreements?
Yeah, they are.
They're working on the drafts of the donation agreements and everything.
They've been working.
Yes, so it should be fairly soon.
But they're working on it. Further questions on item 34? Others wish to address council item number 34? Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval, Benninga.
Bennigan moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Let's second it. Further comments? Seeing all in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 34 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 35.
Report of the July 29, 2009 Notice of Transfer of Appropriations within Major Organizational Units.
You don't have to take any action on that motion, so now is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move Knutson.
Newton moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Litz seconds. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Stand adjourned.
I'll see you tomorrow.